Okay, so I learned that researcher Dr. Susan B. Newman and her team took six laundromats in low income neighborhoods, turned three of them into little literacy corners where they had books on display and accessible, reading nooks organized and decorated, and warm lighting to encourage usage. And then they left three exactly as they were, just machines, plastic chairs, and the vending machines that eat your dollar, and then you got to raise your hand and ask somebody to come fetch it out for you. And the result wasn't a small bump or blip or something that is so obscure it's not worth me talking to you about right now. In fact, it was a 30 times increase in literacy activity. 30x. That's reading, singing, talking about stories in laundromats. Laundromats that had book corners compared to those that were untouched and just used and reserved for doing the business of cleaning clothes. 30 times in a laundromat. This was a controlled study by Dr. Newman, who's out of NYU. Shout out to my NYU alumni. And it was published in 2020, so it's not that old, in the publication The Reading Teacher. And the subject, as described by the abstract, was to investigate whether transforming laundromats into informal literacy environments changes children's behavior. And it appears that it did. Think about why that number 30x is enormous. A laundromat visit is about 45 minutes, maybe even less, depending on how much you got to do and how new and quick the machines are, but it's guaranteed uninterrupted time. So, in theory, it could be, phone in pocket, tablets turned off, family time, no TV, no chores competing for attention. And because you got to wait there in your belongings, nothing to rush off to. So imagine turning out a boring wait into actually educational gold. I don't know if I'm excited about this because I'm a new father who is always trying to make a literacy rich environment for his daughter, or because I'm a former teacher, elementary school at that, and I know the importance of setting a literacy foundation so that kids can grow up and have expansive vocabularies, be able to comprehend the world. But it shows the power of if we can just put a book within arm's reach. And I think this is especially timing with all the reports that are coming out saying that folks, Americans, are becoming less literate. Just last year, it was reported that the average American didn't complete even one book in the year. So this research right here by Dr. Naaman, it sparked a whole national movement called the Laundry Literacy Coalition. You can look it up. The idea was to put reading corners in laundromats across a dozen states so that a kid whose family doesn't have a home library or access to the types of books and silent environment that's needed to read can get one anyway, one wash cycle at a time. The Laundry Literacy Coalition was a national alliance, even though it phased through states, and it was about promoting early childhood literacy. And it purportedly would have this expansion strategy to make the places really, really literacy rich for kids in underserved communities. So, starting with the reading nooks, starting with little libraries, and then expanding to things like posters and sight words and contests and competitions and book clubs. I think we all should check into the status of this, not even if you care about laundromats, but just because you care about the future of our country. The founding partners of this coalition were the Laundry Cares Foundation, which is a nonprofit arm of the Coin Laundry Association, which is also called the CLA. The Clinton Foundation's Too Small to Fail initiative, and Libraries Without Borders. So part of our investigation, maybe we could look into or contact those organizations and get a status update. And if you know anybody at any of these organizations or institutions, please drop a comment below in the video. And with some sort of warm introduction and connection, I'll chase down the lead myself. Now, the sad part is, so far, as I personally have searched for laundromats to acquire and build a deal pipeline towards roll up and shared ownership. And I'm talking about, I visited almost 25 laundromats right now. There's over 30,000 in our country, but the lion's share of the sites that I've gone to are in what we would consider to be low income neighborhoods, vulnerable population, underserved spaces, communities, where the customer bases um, are, I would say, exactly who these reading corners in this coalition was designed to serve. But I regret to inform you, I've seen none of these reading corners, literally zero, zilch. And well, that's untrue. Actually, I visited a corporate chain that will remain unnamed right here in Atlanta, Georgia. Um, I'll triangulate it by saying it's in the Weston area, a stone's throw away from the Atlanta University Center, the AUC, where Morehouse, Spelman, and Clark Atlanta campuses are located. And the store had a kids' corner where it advertised free iPad usage, ergonomic chairs, and even a shared toy box. So this isn't quite a literacy space, but it's getting us closer there. And I saw plenty of children in the laundromat, some attended, some unattended, while I was washing my clothes and performing my observation. But I didn't see no iPads in that space, not a one. I saw the receptacle or the apparatus that affixes the iPad to a wall, but no devices. And I didn't even see any chairs in the area. There were seating, the standard bolted down or against the wall row of seating for adults while they're waiting on their clothes to be washed. But I didn't see anything for the little ones. No chairs or stools or ottomans that the tots could sit on. And there wasn't any toys, no board games. It wasn't a knick-knack in sight, if I'm keeping it 100 with you. They said that these laundromats would become literacy rich spaces, which is true if, I guess, by rich you mean rich in potential or rich in profit that's leaving the community at a rapid pace, especially when you got chains coming in because they're the only folks that probably can afford the startup costs. And I guess if by space you mean the empty corner of the laundromat where the books were supposed to be and the literacy's supposed to be happening, then I guess it fits the bill. But otherwise, it's cap, it's a farce, and it's another sort of promise that has yet to be delivered. Um, so maybe the real lesson here is that sometimes the most powerful classroom in America doesn't even have a chalkboard. And not just because we could do this type of learning at a laundromat, but what happens when a promise isn't delivered? What information, what lesson, what teachings is that really giving the people who might be looking for that enrichment? It is like giving somebody a ledger of what they're worth from the coin slot or card reader of a washing machine. So I wanted to put that forth. Drop a comment if you think that this is an even swap or a swindle. I know what I think. I'm interested to hear your opinions. Peace.